Welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storme, here to help you unlock the mind, business, and spirit of your private practice success. So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to grow, this is the place for you if you really want to create a thriving private practice. Before we dive in, I want to share something that can really make a difference in your business. Imagine having an expert in your pocket, someone available on demand whenever you need guidance. Well, that's exactly what my new program, Practice Momentum, offers. With over 30 years of experience at your fingertips, you can now get the support you need whenever you need it. Curious? Head over to brooklynstorme.com to learn more. Good morning, how are you? I hope that you had a really fantastic weekend. I absolutely did. I have so much to tell you. And today I'm going to talk about something that's so important. And hopefully this is going to be very helpful for you. But before we do, I just want to share, this was probably one of the best weekends that I've had in a long time in terms of my energy. And it's happened as a result of this experiment that I'm doing over here on the side that I mentioned to you in the last episode. It has just been a total game changer. It's changing so much for me at an identity level. And as a result, that shifts your behaviors and your thinking and all this kind of stuff, right? So there's been a lot of that going on. And as a result, I think I said in the last couple of episodes, there's all this pivoting that's happening in the practice. And this morning, there's another layer that's coming away from the practice. So there'll be another service. I don't know that you call it a service, but there's another thing that I offer, and I'll be closing that as well. I just made the decision this morning to do that. Things, you never say never, right? Things can always come back in the future. And as I say to the women in Momentum, it's sometimes we get this idea that there's this line in the sand and we should have reached it, and we feel I don't know, it reminds me of, you hear these stories about the mirage in the desert and all these people are chasing the lake of water, but the lake of water is never there, or you chase that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but it's never there. I think that's kind of like what it is with private practice. We think that there's a pot of gold and we're getting closer to getting the pot of gold, but it seems to keep moving. I think that your practice is the pot of gold. You are already in the pot of gold. You've already got the pot of gold, right? There's nothing to chase. It's already there. You already have it. You have to shift your thinking about, there's this end point. There is not an end point. This is such an important thing that I want to share with you, because it's going to get you out of that I'm behind, everybody else is further along, what's wrong with me, why isn't it working with me, I still have this to do, and I've still got that to do, and I've still got this. And guess what? You do have those things to do, and you always will have things to do, because your business is an extension of you because of the work that you do, right? If we were just making shoes for Reebok, that's very different. We know how many shoes we've got to make. We know exactly the materials. We know exactly the equipment, all of that. And we're going to be making shoes for Reebok. But with us, it's very different. We're dealing with ourselves. A lot of us, our niches are, ourselves 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We're working with clients who have big feelings and who are going through big stuff. Plus, we're doing all CPD and education and training and chapter meetings and supervision and, all of the things. And we're constantly being exposed to, hey, there's a new modality over here. Hey, have you heard about vagus nerve over there? I remember when EMDR went from being woo-woo and alternative and completely discredited as being just quackery, to all of a sudden it got recognition as being an evidence-based clinical thing, and then it went through a whole transition, right? So you constantly, and even Russ Harris's stuff is not that old, right? If you think about that, that's also in terms of psychology and psychotherapy and all those kinds of things, counselling, that's also in the grand scheme of things pretty new, right? So you're always getting bright shiny objects thrown at you, and you're always getting told, hey, there's this thing over there, there's this thing over there. And guess what, sometimes you're going to be exposed to things that really hit home, that really align, and then that is going to create this incongruence between where you are now, what you're doing now, and where you want to be, right? And so yeah, you're going to pivot, and you will change your website, you might change your logo, you might get a new domain name. I mean, hands up if you've done it. So many of us have done it. I think I've got like, I don't know, if I went into my GoDaddy account, I've probably got like, I don't know, 50 or something domain names. If I went into my ASIC, I'm pretty sure there's probably about 30 in there of business names. Like I just keep registering because I don't want anybody else to get them, things like that. So there isn't, what I'm saying is that there isn't an end point. And when you understand this and you know it and you get it, then you just stop putting pressure on yourself to be somewhere, okay? And you just get to say, okay, this is where I am today. And maybe this is where it's going to be for the next 12 months or the next 5 years or the next 10 years. Or maybe I'm going to adapt and grow as new modalities or new interests or things like that cross my path, and I feel called or guided to go in those directions. So anyway, I have been, as a result of my experiment, some things have been brought to my attention around where I am now with my business, right? And so, yeah, I'm in the process of doing a big overhaul, looking at the things that take my energy, the things that give me energy, the things that support me to create safety, the things that take safety from me, all those kinds of things. And so when I do a business audit for myself, I'm looking at all different layers. I look at, yes, what are the systems and processes? Of course. I look at planning, of course. I have ways of planning that work for my brain, which is great. And you all know, like, I will never be the person with a physical planner. I mean, again, I should never say never say never. I love the idea of them. I love setting them up. I put the stickers in, I color code everything, I plan a month ahead, and I love them. But then it'll come to, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm like, I'm not even looking at it anymore. Now I realize I haven't been using it, and then it just gets used for random notes that I jot down while I'm on coaching calls. So it becomes kind of like paper for jotting things, right? Things I don't want to forget, instead of being a planner, So anyway, there's a bit of that. And so, yeah, as part of all of this, it has required or led to perhaps a reevaluation of where my practice is at the moment and where I want it to go. Not necessarily over 5 years or 10 years or anything, but even just the next 12 months. And what I see for me is I am really, really, really aware now of how much I love doing the business side of things. Also very aware now, and this all started with, earlier in the year actually, understanding more about the neurodivergence, right? So ever since I was little, I used to love inventing things. I love inventing things. And my mum will tell you I was always inventing stuff. My brother and sisters will tell you I was always inventing stuff. I had inventions galore. I just loved it. It was how my brain worked. But when I was, a grown up, and I've been doing private practice for over 30 years, you're kind of taught not to invent things. And even when you're studying at university, it's really drummed into you that there's no such thing as an original idea. Somebody else always had it first. You've got to go and reference all those people who had the idea first and all of this. So it's kind of like programmed or conditioned or trained out of you that you ever have original ideas. And so then when you finish uni and you're working, it just doesn't occur to you that there's space for your inventions, right? And when you are encouraged to do things, like I used to be part of an innovation hub, but it was so tame. Like it was more, I guess, refining existing things than coming up with brand new ways of doing things. Because whenever I would suggest a brand new way of doing something, people would freak out and they would say, no, 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 no. We've got a way. We just need to, work on innovating this way. I'm like, but then it's not innovating. It's like just service improvement, and you should be doing that anyway. And what's the point of this innovation hub? And so very frustrating. But when I learned about neurodivergence, which my anniversary was just last week, the 25th of November marked a year of the awareness that this was what it was, right? But anyway, as a result of getting that diagnosis, of course, you go and you start learning, right? Which I still can't even look at a lot of the stuff I bought when I was away in Dalesford last. So I think, what was that? I don't know, 4 weeks ago or something. Gosh, it feels like 6 months. I did buy 2 books, and one of them was about autism. The other one was about ADHD. You'd probably know them if you saw them, if you're working in mental health. They're white books, and they look like they've got watercolor pictures on the front with black outlines in a kind of sketch, and you open them up and all the pages look like big watercolor splotches with black sort of sketchy writing. I find it very hard to look at because it's so chaotic. I like clean, simple, minimal. My brain likes clean, simple, minimal, so I struggle to read it. But I bought them because I wanted to learn more. But when I got back to my accommodation and I started to flip through them, I found it very confronting, and so I had to close the books. I'll read them when I'm ready. I'm clearly just not ready yet. So I'm still, I would say, in the early days of actually learning more about what's going on with me. But as part of that journey, I was talking with my therapist, who I see for neurodivergence, right? So we're talking about strategies and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, she's great for psychoeducation. And I was just telling her one day, she was saying to me, oh, yeah, how was your week last week, And I said to her, oh, it was really awesome. Like, I identified this thing, and I said there were people booking inquiry calls to work with me, and they were sharing that they were having trouble with their discovery calls. When I was speaking to them about those calls, I could hear really clearly like why they weren't converting. And so I gave them all some tips on what they could do. I gave them all some strategies. And I said, but I really think that, there's a whole new way that they could be done, right? And I got so excited and I told her about it. And then she said to me, the reason that you're so excited is because your brain loves to do stuff like that, loves to invent stuff. And, maybe you want to lean into that more. And that was what led to Booked and Better. So Booked and Better is me working with my brain, which in this context is around getting to invent stuff. Me working with my brain, getting to invent stuff and getting paid to invent stuff, that helps my ideal clients get better results in their businesses, right? Which is why it's called Booked and Better, because most of them either they need clients, want clients, need money, want money. It's that, or they're feeling like scattered, not sure what they should be doing in the day, bit lost, bit directionless. They've got systems that they don't realize might not be working for them. And so they want to try and figure out like what's going on there. And so, yeah, that's why the membership is called Booked, to get them more clients, and Better, to try and make their practice better for them, whatever better looks like. And usually that's going to be finding simpler, easier, cost-effective, time-effective ways of doing anything. So, yeah, that was me leaning into the neurodivergence and using it as a skill in my business. So anyway, and Booked and Better is just like, I love it so much. I really do. Once a month I get to go and lean into this part of me that's been stifled for so long with all this masking that was going on. But anyway, while I was on the weekend doing my own business reflection, because I give myself time for it, right? I'm not just like, I'm going to like, I don't know, figure it all out in 1 hour. I give myself time. And because of the way I process things for myself, I usually know that, I don't know, for example, like if I have to write something, I will work really hard on it in the moment, and I will put my pen down when I think it's really good. But then I can come back, a day or two later, look at it and go, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? Like, why did you say it like that? And this doesn't sound right. And that doesn't sound like you. And, and then I end up like rewriting it. So I'm that person. I know that. And I know not to rush things. I know I'm the sort of person who needs to do iterations, do drafts. So when I was looking at the business over the weekend, and I was thinking about, like, what is a point of difference? Like, how am I different from other private practice coaches? And I know how I think that I'm different, but I thought it might also be interesting to, I don't know, maybe get another perspective. And so I spoke with ChatGPT. And I said, hey, this is the thing. And I gave all my information, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is what I'm thinking my point of difference is. Can you help me out here? Blah, blah, blah. And anyway, he came back and he goes, well, yeah, the point of difference you've identified, absolutely. And he said, but interesting, you're the one that's got a qualification and the others don't. And I was like, no, that can't be right. And he's like, yeah, it's right. I checked this website, this person's website, that person's website, all of this. And he goes, yeah, they're not qualified to do business coaching, but they're doing business coaching. I was like, no, check again. Double check, triple check. And then I went and checked with Perplexity, and Perplexity gave me the same stuff and said, no, these ones not qualified. And I was like, okay. So then I thought, this is a point of difference, and it is really important because, I don't know, I just guess a lot of reasons. I'm not sure where to start with it really, but I think if I'm coming at it from the angle of service, right? If I'm coming at it from the angle of service and helping you out, because it's December and I know that while everybody's really either super busy or winding down, I know there's also some people that it's starting to niggle in their minds about what do we want next year. Some people are going to be, not everyone, but I know some people are going to be thinking about how to go this year. How do I want it to go next year? They're the people who do the goal setting or set intentions and things like that, right? Now, I think the reason that I went, and you've heard me say this on so many previous episodes, but when I was transitioning from, when I retired from psychology and being a psychologist, and I moved over into the therapy space, I was very excited about doing all of that, right? And then what ended up happening was a bunch of psychologists who had been watching my journey said, we want to do that too. Can you help us? Can you give us some business coaching? And I knew nothing about business coaching, right? But they were like, well, you've done it. Can you show us how to do it? And I said that I couldn't because I wasn't qualified. And as you know, they said to me, well, can you get qualified and then let us know? So that's exactly what I did. I went and got coaching qualifications. I did my hours, all the things, right? Did all of that. And then I came back and I was like, yeah, okay. And then I've continued to acquire so many certifications, right? The current one that I'm doing is around using artificial intelligence for business. And I'm so excited about that because I see, as a result of learning all of this, I see so many possibilities for us over here in the world of private practice. But anyway, I digress. So I went and got those qualifications before I went and help people. But it didn't occur to me that other private practice coaches didn't. And so what's happened is it looks like, now I'm not saying all private practice business coaches are unqualified. I know there's going to be somebody who says, oh, you said all. No, I'm not saying all. I'm saying the ones that I researched, the ones that Perplexity and ChatGPT researched didn't have a qualification. And it is, I think, a problem, because how can you sell something that you aren't trained to do? That's like, I don't know, if I took my car to a guy who was calling himself a mechanic because the word mechanic is not a protected title. And, I went and took my car to him. What are the chances he knows what he's doing compared to somebody who did go and learn? Right? Am I going to be safe with a car that's been tinkered on by someone without any training compared to somebody who actually looked at the car, assessed the car, diagnosed the problem, recommended a solution, and actually sorted it out? And anyway, so I just think that that's so important. But then the other thing that I was thinking about was that it's so interesting in counselling, for example, that there's such a push around counselling and delivering the service, and counsellors needing to be trained, qualified, have the supervision, have the code of ethics, have the PD. And they say, it's not a protected title, but you should only work with someone who is trained and qualified because, there's ethics involved and this, that, and the other. And if a member of the public goes and sees somebody who's not trained, not qualified, isn't part of a peak body, doesn't have the code of ethics, isn't doing the supervision, isn't doing the ongoing education or CPD or continuing education, like whatever acronyms your association uses, then they're unsafe and they're dangerous and this, that, and the other. Yet those same people will sell business coaching and say, well, it's not a protected title, anyone can do it. I just don't know that I'm okay with that. To me, it's just my personal opinion, but I just don't see how you can be in integrity when you do that. I think it's one thing to say, I started a business, I got it going, it's going well, and I'm happy to show you what I'm doing. Fine. Maybe call yourself an experienced worker, right? Don't call yourself a business coach. I think it could be, I don't know, a little bit maybe misleading to call yourself a business coach if you don't have any training in coaching, because how can you know what coaching involves? How can you know what the frameworks are? You're obviously not using any evidence-based coaching models. And I mean, what does all of that mean for your client? And I know that I'm drawing a parallel here between counselling there and business coaching here. And I know that when we're doing counselling, it's about well-being and health and everything. And that's very different to on the other side, which is about business. I get that. But I don't think business is less important than mental health. I think they're equally important. They're just different, because as a business coach, right, just like as a counsellor, you aren't responsible for your client's outcomes. You're not. I mean, when you're doing counselling, psychology, social work, there's only so much you can do, right? It's up to your client to do the work. They've got to go through the journey themselves, right? We can't do that for them. They've got to do the integration themselves. We can't do that for them. They've got to do the exercises, the journaling, the reflection, experience the insights. We can't do those things for them. They've got to do the homework. They've got to listen to the meditation. They've got to do all of that, right? And, they've got to show up to their appointments. And do you know what I mean? So you can be in integrity as a counsellor, and you can absolutely do everything that's evidence-based and give them all of the things. But you're going to have very different responses in all of your clients based on lots of things like how well they align with what you're doing, whether they're motivated or not, whether they are going away and doing the work, whether they're just seeing the time with you as the therapy and they don't want to do any of the others. Do you know what I mean? So your clients' results belong to your clients. Your job is to show up and give them the things, right? And show them how to use them, make sure that they understand all of that. It's the same with coaching. You aren't responsible for your coaching clients' results, right? People who are being coached, who are motivated, who ask questions, who turn up to the calls, who book the calls, who turn up to the events that you run, who show up to the workshops, who access your resources, who ask you to look over their stuff, right? Who keep the lines of communication open, all those kinds of things. They're going to get better results every single time, hands down, than someone who, I don't know, they're just like mostly AWOL for the coaching program, right? But I also think that while we're not responsible for our clients' results, right, I do think that we're responsible to show up in integrity and behave in a way that's really ethical. And I don't know that it's ethical to help somebody with their business as a business coach if you don't understand what coaching is and you don't have the models, you don't have the frameworks, you haven't got the experience, you haven't had your hours, you haven't done your pracs, you haven't done your placements, you're not having coaching supervision. I mean, how? When I help women with their businesses, a couple of things influence this for me. One of the very big things, one of the very, very big drivers for me is I am very aware, because of my own stories, my own beliefs, my own philosophies, that a lot of women who work in the wellbeing space are financially disadvantaged, especially at the early stages of the practice, or maybe they've been in practice for years and it's just not going anywhere and they don't know why, but they're still financially disadvantaged, right? Maybe they've been in it for years and instead of the business ever turning a profit and be able to pay them and things like that, it is just sucking the life from them and their savings. Or maybe they've been in it for a while and, they're not paying themselves the same amount each week. They never know how much money is coming in. Or, like this is very common. I'll say to the ladies I work with, how much do you put into your super each week? And 9 times out of 10, they'll go, none, can't afford it, none. That's a luxury for me. Sorry, I just had to cough. So And there are also women who they've had periods out of the workforce, either raising children, and while they were raising children or caring for parents and loved ones and things like that, their partner didn't have a break from work. Their partner continued to be employed, maybe got promotions, maybe got pay rises, got super put into their accounts, got annual training budget, I don't know, annual supervision budget, I don't know, like whatever it was. So their partner, it continued to move forward, but this woman had everything kind of put on hold. And then when it is time for her to go back, she's behind the 8 ball and she's got to play catch up. And that's really hard to do. And it's really hard to do when, I don't know, someone gives you a strategy, but there's other stuff going on for you and you don't want to use a strategy for all kinds of reasons. Now, I don't understand how somebody that isn't trained in coaching can support a woman through that. I don't understand, without having the knowledge and the education and the practical experience, how you can help a woman with that in her business. I mean, you're mucking around with somebody's livelihood potentially over here. And her business is her livelihood. In all the years I've been doing this, nobody has ever said to me, "Oh yeah, I'm not here to make money, Brooklyn. Like, this is just a charity for me." Like, no. All my clients are for profit. So if I'm going to be providing a coaching service to my clients, they're coming to me to be coached. I have to give them that. And around the coaching, my model of working is being able to wear a few different hats. So it's business coaching over here, it's business mentoring here, and then over there it is business strategy, right? So for me, it's my ability to draw upon those three things that lets me, maybe you on your website, in your marketing, you talk about meeting your clients where they're at. That's what it looks like for me over here. So sometimes one of my coaching clients, she will just need a strategy. And I see that right away. There's nothing else going on. She doesn't need the mentoring. She doesn't need the coaching. She does actually just need the strategy. And she's good to go. And I'll give her that. And yep, she's good to go, right? And I've got so much proof of that. Other times, it's clear to me she might be asking for a strategy. But because I know her, I also know that no, the strategy is going to come second. There's other things that need to be done first. And, I can draw upon whether that's going to be the mentoring over here or the business coaching over there, right? But if I hadn't got the education and the training and understand about ethics and understand about professional development and be doing all of those kinds of things, how would I know that? I wouldn't, right? And because it's so important to me to make sure that women have, I call it financial safety, right? Because I never felt safe financially. I didn't. For the longest time, I was always scared around money. When I was growing up, before I was 12, I used to do odd jobs. So, for example, we had a great big Ford FC station wagon. I know it's very Australian, isn't it? And I used to, on a weekend, I used to go and wash the car. Now, obviously, I was a little kid. I wasn't doing a fantastic job of it, but I did it. And then I would come inside, tell my parents that I'd done it, and I would get like a silver coin. It would usually be 10 cents, 20 cents, right? Which back then was big bucks, because 20 cents would get you 40 chalk buds at the milk bar. I know, they used to do it by weight. Remember that? I know. It's not like that anymore. But anyway, and we used to have little jam jars, right? My mum, she used to wash out the IXL jam jars, and we all had one, my 5 siblings and I. And whenever we did like an odd job that was a paid odd job, we'd go let them know we'd finished it. They'd go check, and then we'd get our little silver coin put in this jar. My mum used to put the jars on the top shelf in the kitchen cupboard, right, where we couldn't reach them. So I learned that money was earned, right? I learned you gotta work and you gotta do things you don't want to do, and you get paid. But then one day I had another lesson, and that other lesson for me was I went to go and get money out of my jar, right? I was so excited. I was going to be going to the shops with a neighbour. She had 10 cents, so I wanted 10 cents so we could go and get lollies, like fizzos, warheads, stuff like that. So anyway, I say to my mum, like, I want this, da-da-da-da. My mum's like, okay, let me go and get it for you. And she gets my jar, and I could see the look on her face. Like, she looked sort of confused, didn't really know what was going on. She pulls my jar down. There's no money in it, but there is a piece of paper. She opens up the piece of paper, and it says, I owe you, $1.10 from Daddy. Now, I didn't realise, being a little kid, the impact that was going to have on me, but that was probably where the whole thing started with me and my financial unsafety. When I was 12, I had just turned 12, and up until then, I'd been doing calisthenics, ballet. My brother was doing tennis. All my sisters were in activities, mostly ballet and calisthenics as well. Just a normal middle class life. Almost overnight, we're in poverty. And, mum struggled emotionally a lot. And I was the eldest. And if you're firstborn, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a tough gig. You don't realise it at the time. You don't realise it was a tough gig until you're grown up and you look back. But what ended up happening was the sheriff used to come to the house regularly, and he would have conversations with me because my mum wasn't available. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, we ended up getting kicked out of the house because the bank foreclosed, because my dad didn't pay the mortgage and my dad didn't pay any maintenance or child support, and there wasn't a sole parent's pension. It was 40 years ago or whatever. Those things just didn't exist then. And so anyway, it was really hard and my whole family fell apart. So of the 6 children, 3 went in one direction, 3 went in another. By that, what I mean is 3 of my siblings, there was drug addiction, there was alcohol addiction, there was all of the things, right? All of the trouble with the law, all these kinds of things. And then there were the other 3, and we just totally opposite direction, university, got professional qualifications behind us, all of the things. It was, yeah. But anyway, so from age 12 right up to when I was in my mid-20s, the whole poverty thing was a real theme. And we had to get secondhand clothes, secondhand furniture, go to the Brotherhood of St. Lawrence in Rosella Street in Frankston and get 2-day-old bread, get hampers where the labels had been removed from the tins, because back then you weren't allowed to, I don't know, there was something about the labelling. So you never knew what you were going to be eating for dinner that night. I mean, one night it was Christmas pudding and beetroot. What the H? It was like a game. My mum would be like, okay, whose turn is it to pick 2 cans tonight, But yeah, you never realise it at the time, but it does some damage. And then, when I was married, my first husband, I had all my money going into the offset account for my tax and my GST and everything. There was $90,000 in there. I got my bill from the ATO, no problem. Went to go and pay it in the middle of the night. There was no money in the account. I thought there was a glitch with the ANZ. This is how naive I was. How stupid was I, right? I call the ANZ middle of the night. And I tell them, hey, I think there's a problem over here. When are you going to be back online? They reassure me that no, there's no problem. And they said, oh, well, does anybody else have access to the account? That's when I knew my husband had taken the money. So I went and woke him up, and he denied everything. And then he confessed and said, yeah, he did take it. Didn't realise he'd moaned through $90,000 in 12 months. And he couldn't tell me what it was spent on, where it was spent, nothing. I don't know. Was he gambling? Was it drugs? Was it something else? I have no idea. To this day, I don't know what he did with that money. So what ended up happening as a result of that was we needed to refinance our house. And because he was unemployed again, he didn't qualify for a mortgage. So I found myself in the position of being solely responsible for the mortgage on the house, right? Which was scary. So scary. I'd never had that responsibility before. I was scared to death. It put a lot of pressure on me. But it was also one of the best things that could have happened to me, because I learned I'm capable, and I learned, hey, I can do this. And I learned that, okay, maybe all the lessons and experiences I'd had around men are the ones who are good with money. You should always defer to your husband or your dad or this or that. Like always talk to the men like, we don't know anything about the money. Yeah, I realized, okay, maybe it's possible for me to know stuff about money and maybe it's going to be possible for me to look after myself. And I did it. And it was the best thing that could have happened because then I knew I'm going to be just fine for the rest of my life. I knew I could do this, right? It was very, very, very grounding, empowering, like confidence building, all of the things. And then, yeah, there was like husband, well, almost husband number two, right? The one who jilted me on our wedding day. Another one took $35,000. Well, I shouldn't say he took it or he stole it. I freely, willingly gave him $35,000 over a period of, 18 months, 2 years, in the spirit of building the home that we were going to be moving into. I didn't realize I was getting romance scammed. Yeah. Even with a PhD, even with being a psychologist, all of the things, did not see it coming, totally got romance scammed. It's why working with victims of romance scams is so important to me now. Anyway, move on to husband number three. This one, when we come to Australia, big problems, attempts to have a go at domestic violence. So with that initial attempt, I'm out, boom. No, I'm not hanging around for this, right? No. So tried to get a divorce. There's a whole process because he was from another country, blah, blah, blah. He didn't want to go back to his other country. He wanted PR, permanent residency here. And the only way that he would go back is if I paid him $150,000. So then I have extortion at the hands of somebody else, right? So anyway, the thing is that I understand, and even now, like for the last 6 years, financially supporting an aging parent, right? I get it. As women, it is so important that you can support yourself financially. So when it comes to the time for you to get help for your private practice, not all of the time, but it's not uncommon for the women that approach me anyway to say, look, I haven't been paying myself. I don't know what I'm going to do over here. I'm on the verge of shutting everything down and just going to work in at Bunnings. Like, they probably needed support from a business coach months ago, maybe 12 months ago, maybe 2 years ago. And now they're kind of like in hot water. It's like a desperate situation. So there's those people there, those women there. There's also women that I work with that are like, I'm on some kind of payment at the moment and I want to get off it. And I'm like, yes, let's get you off that payment, whether it's a study, whether it's the dole, whether it's a student allowance, whether it's a parenting payment, like whatever it is. There are women that I work with right now that are in the process of getting off payments. And it is what's the word I want to say? I am so committed to making sure they have everything they need to be able to do that confidently, safely, knowing that they can support themselves and other people around them financially without anxiety, without fear, without sleepless nights, without all of those kinds of things, right? The financial security, that is not spoken about often enough for women in private practice. I talk about it a lot because somebody needs to be talking about it. You need to hear that you have to talk about it. And it's why when I'm like working in Practice Momentum, for example, one of the very first things I ask my clients is show me the numbers. And 9 times out of 10, they don't have the numbers, or the numbers are sketchy, or the numbers they're guessing. Oh, I think it's this, I think it's that. They don't know. And it happens because no one ever taught them. It happens because maybe they just don't think they're good with numbers. And I am yet to work with a woman who's running a business who isn't good at numbers. They just haven't been shown what numbers to look at. They haven't been shown how to interpret the numbers. They haven't been told what the numbers mean. And as a result, they don't track them. They fly by the seat of their pants in their business. They're perpetually anxious because they're counting on inquiries and bookings. They're freaking out. They keep adding more and more and more things to their plate to do because they think that, there must be something they're missing. All of this, right? It's serious. And all those things are actually getting in the way of them making the money, but they just can't stop, right? Now, there's no way on earth I would be able to help any of my clients as a business coach without coaching, training, or education. So I have no idea what's going on with those other private practice business coaches, in inverted commas. I don't. But I would just say, if you are one of those women who's thinking about her business next year, and, for me with Practice Momentum, people join throughout the year, right? Practice Momentum is not I only open it, twice a year or anything like that. Practice Momentum is something that women can join throughout the year, right? And I've kept it that way deliberately. Where was I going with this? I forget. Oh, God. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yes. But it's very normal for people to be using this time, like December, Jan, to start thinking about what do I want for 2026, or what do I want for 2027 or 2028, or whatever year you're listening to this in. And so that's why I just want to share with you, whether you work with me or somebody else, right? Doesn't matter. It's not about that. What it is about is making sure you're getting guidance from a trusted source. So when you are looking for a private practice business coach, do not be afraid to have a look at the website and see if they actually have any qualifications, right? In coaching. If you can't find them, it's okay for you to send an inquiry, right? If you don't want to ask them in real life on the phone or on a call or something like that, if you're a bit nervous about doing that, that's totally fine. You can always send them an email and just say, hey, I'm thinking about getting a business coach for my private practice. I saw that you offer business coaching. Can you tell me a little bit about where you did your training? Can you tell me a little bit about your qualifications, right? Stuff like that. It's okay. And I think it's important. You wouldn't want, I don't know, if you had a friend or a family member or something like that, would you say to them, I think it'd be really great for you to go and work with an untrained, unqualified, counsellor? Probably not. You're probably going to say to them, I think it might be a good idea for you to just check when you're looking for a counsellor that they, they're with this body over here, or they've got this qualification over there, or whatever it is, right? You're going to help out your friends and family. And it's the same with the business coaching. So don't be afraid to ask the questions, because it's very, very important. It's your business, it's your livelihood. So you need to be getting the right advice. And not only advice, you need to be working with somebody who's trained and qualified in coaching, right? Yeah. Otherwise, if it's just, not just, lived experience is so valuable. But if they're speaking more or their service is more based on their personal experience, right? That's totally fine. And if you're good with that, that's totally fine. But if you're someone who's like, I need this, it's a big investment, it's important to me to do it with, the right person for me, then I think that it's, I wouldn't be a very good business coach if I didn't tell you, go and check if they have what you need, right? The qualifications, I think, are so important, but there are other things that are also going to determine whether or not you work with someone. And that's going to be things just like in counselling, right? You have a niche or you have a way of working and you're attracting clients in that niche and who like that way of working. It's the same with finding someone to help you with your private practice. Everyone works differently, so some will align with you and where you are now, others may not. That's totally okay, and it's important that you work with someone that you feel you can learn from, grow with, get along with, who you can have confidence in, right? The other thing too is you want to look at the investment. So the investment is the amount of money. And I think a really helpful way of finding out for yourself whether or not this is going to be worth it is to think about the return on the investment. I think what happens with some of the women that book inquiry calls, right? I book an inquiry call, all goes well, gets to the end, ask about the money. I tell them, like, at the moment it's $10,000. It's actually going up on the 1st of January. I don't know if it's going to be 12 or if it's going to be 15. But anyway, it's going up on the 1st of January. But when I tell them at the moment that it's 10, some of them get what I call sticker shock. And they have a mini meltdown. They're like, oh, I can't afford that. I'm not even paying myself right now. And it's a shock, right? So what I would encourage you to do is understand coaching for your business is about making money for your business. That's what you're paying for. You are giving a coach money to help you make money. So when a coach says their fee, whatever it is, what you want to do is figure out, well, in terms of money, what am I going to get back? What is the return on my investment? So if I invest $10,000 in getting help for my business, how much money could I make back? So always ask whoever you're talking to about the return on investment financially, because I think when you can look at it from that angle, it makes everything feel a lot easier. As opposed to, oh my gosh, this is going to be 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 or however much somebody's, told you it's going to be to work with them. And you panic and you think that money's just going to get taken from your bank account or something, and your bank account will go back to zero, or it's going to come off your credit card and you will have no money, or whatever you're thinking. Always ask, before you panic, ask, okay, well, with all the clients that you've been working with, on average, what's the return on investment? And understand that what on average other people make could be very different to you, right? You're looking at an average. There's always going to be people who make a lot more, and there'll always be people who finish a coaching program maybe not making very much at all. And that happens for all kinds of reasons. Just like in counselling, you have, on average, most of your clients improve, right? But you're going to have some that really improve, and it's like, so clear and so obvious, and it's so energizing and so inspiring, and it's those wins over there that keep you in the game and keep you invested and wanting to keep helping all these other ones, right? But at the same time, you've done your level best to help some of these other clients over here. You're showing up, you're doing all of the things, you're going the extra mile, but the progress just isn't happening, or it's happening at a very, very, very slow rate, right? That's business. That is our experience as therapists. That is our experience as coaches. So I think it's helpful to get an idea of what am I going to get back in terms of the money side of things, because when you have that and you understand that, it makes everything that much easier. Like, for example, one of the ladies in Practice Momentum, right? Now, when she joined, it was $6,000. When she got to month 9, right, she was taking home, she'd increased, right, her earnings to taking home after tax, after expenses, all the things, right? She was taking home in her pocket just over $1,000 a week. Free and clear. That was her, what do they call it? Liquid cash. That was her liquid income. She could do whatever she wanted with that, right? Just free and clear in her pocket. Now, she wasn't making anywhere near that in terms of her take-home pay when we first started working together. But, 9 months in, I'm just getting my calculator. Well, 9 fours, right? 9 months is 4 weeks. That's 36 weeks. So, and it was $6,000. So, $44,500. Anyway, she's got like a return on her investment of her $4,750 of like 700% or something. I know. And she's not the only one. There are lots of them. And for that reason, I'm going to be putting the ROIs onto my website so that you can see. Because I think it's going to be really helpful for you so you can get out of your own way. Sorry, I just had to cough again. So you can get out of your own way when it comes to the money, right? Always ask. And so, yeah, there are a few things to be mindful of if you are in the market or you're considering, maybe you're like thinking about business coaching, maybe you're not quite there yet, maybe you're like, maybe middle of next year I might, whatever, it doesn't matter. The things I want you to take away today are check whoever you decide to work with has coaching qualifications and is in a peak body for coaching. Also, because protect yourself, right? You don't want to be getting advice that's going to affect the business and your livelihood and all those kinds of things. Anyway, check that. The other thing is match for values and style and all of those kinds of things, right? So one of my things is I really do integrate the business strategy and coaching and mindset, all those things, with, of course, as you know, the universe stuff. I really do love talking about energy. I love talking about purpose. I love talking about alignment, values, all those kinds of things. Very important. I love to work with oracle cards. I think that they are a fantastic tool in terms of being able to unlock new and creative ways of problem solving in your business, right? Look for that. If you are neurodivergent, right, you're going to perhaps do better with somebody who understands that and can zig to your zag, right, and can show you ways of working with your energy and with your brain, and does that by leading with example. Okay, so maybe check, do they have any lived experience with neurodivergence, or do they have any training? If not, do you know what I mean? Things like that. Check that. Also, check to see what other people might say, like testimonials, reviews, case studies. Like, ask for it all. Your business, like your health, is so important, and it's okay for you to ask questions that will enable you to make an informed decision about your next steps and what you need to do, where you need to go, all those kinds of things. Okay. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you today. There's other things I want to talk about too, but I've got to go because I've got to go and do some stuff inside Practice Momentum right now. But I've got other stuff, like not related to this, completely different topic. If I've got time today and the energy, I will record it today so you get it on Wednesday. But yes, so much happening. If you haven't done it already too, and you would like to have a conversation about your private practice, I will put the link in the show notes for you so that you can book a 15-minute conversation with me. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction. If I can help you, I'll let you know. If I can't, I will also let you know. And I might have other things, or can refer you to somebody who might be able to help you with whatever it is you're struggling with at the moment. So yeah, use me as a resource, not a problem. You can also contact me on Facebook anytime or by my email. Okay, it's just support@brooklynstorme.com. But I hope that this has been useful. Other people who are doing private practice, business coaching, it is a self-regulated industry. Unfortunately, that means that because the title isn't protected, anybody can call themselves one. So it really means that you, as the client, need to look after yourself, look after your business, look after your clients and your finances by just checking a few things first before you make your decision. Okay. So yeah, I hope it was really helpful. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. All right, my lovelies, have a beautiful day. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you on the Wednesday edition of the Private Practice Podcast. Thank you so much for being part of my world. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Private Practice Podcast. So as you reflect on today's insights, imagine creating real success in your private practice without going down rabbit holes or exhausting yourself with business activities that don't move the needle. With Practice Momentum, you have push of a button help available on demand. It's like having an expert in your pocket ready to guide you whenever you need it. Visit brooklynstorme.com to discover how Practice Momentum can transform your approach to building a thriving practice. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the mind, business, and spirit of private practice success.